Okay, welcome to this video on how to make a beach trolley for the Firebug. This is our beach trolley design. It's what I call my Bunnings trailer because pretty much everything other than the wheels I get from Bunnings Warehouse, which is a hardware store. But most of the stuff you'd be able to source from local hardware stores or aluminium suppliers. The trolley is made up of this very simple frame, this T-frame, and with this riser. This is my first trolley that I made, and since I've actually made a little modification that this riser, rather than stopping just at the joint here, actually comes down a little bit. This just lifts the front of the trolley up and keeps the boat a little bit flatter when it's sitting there being rigged up. This particular metal that I'm using here, I've got some of it right here. It's actually a piece of pool fencing. So it's a square aluminium tube. It's very lightweight, and it comes ready painted. So you could get something very similar from an aluminium supplier, probably cheaper than what I buy this for. I buy two lengths. One for the main cross section there at 1500 wide, and for the main beam coming up in the riser I use a separate piece which is 2100. These pieces are simply joined. You can see one of the plates that I've got here. It's riveted on using 4.8mm stainless steel rivets. You really do need the stainless steel rivets because you need the strength on this joint. And these plates are made out of this 3mm by 50mm section that I buy from Bunnings. And so those are simply cut out, drilled and riveted into place. At the T section here, since this one I've slightly modified how I do this. You can't actually see it, but there is another plate which runs through on the top there that joins it at the top. You can just see the plate running through underneath. A slight modification that I've made is I now use a 3mm plate and actually take it across at an angle here, just because there is a bit of torque that comes on that joint, just make that a little bit stronger. I only use that angle plate on the bottom, I still use just a single piece on the top. For the handle on the riser, I just simply use a piece of aluminium tube like this, which is 20mm. I cut a hole through the aluminium riser here, the square tube, using just a 20mm spade bit. It's just a wood bit, but the aluminium's so soft that it's quite easily cut by a wood bit. Obviously the aluminium goes through from end to end. I normally make it a little bit bigger. Also have some wood that I've prepared, and this fits perfectly down inside the tube. Let me show you. So here's the tube. You can see the wood is a perfect fit. What I do is I cut off a section about that large and I put that down in the top of the riser. I then drill my hole all the way through this piece of wood. That allows me to put the aluminium all the way through, both the aluminium tube and the piece of wood. And then from the top, as you can see it's not far off the top of the riser there, I can then put a wood screw down through the piece of wood, through the piece of aluminium. That effectively locks the wood in from moving sideways. And then that's simply finished off with these bike handles. There's lots of different varieties you can choose from on these. These ones are actually screwed on. I wouldn't recommend that because it tends to collapse the aluminium tube. You can get some which are a reasonably good push fit, but you do need to glue them on. The bike handles seem to be a standard 22mm diameter, so the handles are designed to fit onto those, but they do stretch over them, so they fit nicely onto 20mm as well. You just need to make sure you glue them on well. The cradle was just made up of a piece of 4x2 that I've just cut a piece out in the middle, across this width here is 600mm at the bottom of the boat, and I've just taken the angle between the bottom and the bilge off the boat and cut that out. And then all up, it's this one has been covered with a pretty standard closed cell foam. You can see it here. I've actually got 2 layers on, so I put one layer on and then the second layer over that and wrapped it round. This is a pretty standard sleeping mat. It's probably available all over the world. On my other ones I've used a thicker 20mm foam, which was called an aerobic mat. Main thing is just make sure it's closed cell, it's reasonably durable, and that's just been put on with a contact cement. On the ends of my cradle I just have these simple awning hooks, and you'll see a bit later on how I secure the boat down onto the trolley using those awning hooks. Now this is probably the most complicated part of the build, is getting the wheel on. The wheel that I'm using here is called a full shore wheel. They are available in Australia and New Zealand through a number of distributors, but I'm sure you can buy something similar anywhere around the world. It's a rubberized pneumatic tyre, so it's blown up by air. It has a plastic rim and a plastic bearing. Now you've got to match obviously your axle material to your bearing. Just so happens here that I've used that same 20mm aluminium tube for my axle, and you can see I've got what is called a R-clip, stainless steel R-clip, that I've just go through there, and then that retains the wheel for me. You've probably got a lot more options about what you use in the axle rather than the wheel, so choose your wheels, find your axle diameter, and then find something that will act as your axle. Now I'll now go through the assembly of that so you can see how I get that finished off.